If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims.
Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Beverly Smirnis. Beverly has started her PR agency with the Canadian wine industry as her client, has a long career in specialty magazine publishing, and is now a published author, blogger on her site, thesavvylist.com, and host of the People Pursuing Passions podcast. Love that title. Whether your listener is a young college student or an empty nester, her message to them is it's never too late to depart from living life on the track and make the wiser choice to live life off the rails. Woohoo! Welcome, Beverly.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. Where do you live now?
So I'm in Dallas.
Okay.
And many years ago, I met a Canadian boy, and we were both traveling in Mexico, and we had a long distance relationship. So when we were first married, we moved to Canada. I had experience working in Dallas at PR agencies, and then he had always been very entrepreneurial mindset. And so he's like, you don't need to be working for other people. You could do this yourself. And so together we formed our own PR agency, and we had a great time working with the Canadian wine industry, and still are in touch with some of those original people that we worked with way back when on that.
Oh, that's great. How did you guys meet in Mexico?
We were just both on vacation, and it was both of us decided to go last minute. He was supposed to go at a different time, and actually first and only time in his whole life that he ever missed his plane the first time he was supposed to go. And so we really felt like it was meant to be in retrospect, you know.
That's awesome. Were you guys just on the beach or at a resort?
I had just gotten there, and I went with a girlfriend, and I went really last minute, and we were just out at night walking around, and there was music playing, and we were trying to get in the party mood. And I mean, I met this guy. So
that's great.
What's really interesting is everyone, all of our friends and siblings, and, said, well, that's really nice. But those things never work out. You live in two different countries, and, you're very different from each other. And we just decided, not to listen to that. And we're actually the only ones of all of our siblings anyway, and a lot of our friends that are still together after 30 years. So,
That's amazing. So you've been with your partner 30 years.
Yes.
Wow. That's incredible. Well, sometimes if you're not like the other person, you can complement each other. There's like the yin to the yang. So there is definitely learning you can do too.
And we really are a lot alike, even though we grew up in different countries and different cultures. My husband his parents were Greek immigrants, so he was first generation Canadian, and he speaks, reads, and writes Greek fluently. And we've traveled to Greece together. We just got back a few weeks ago, and it's great to be able to go with somebody that can speak the language, and it opens doors into doing things that you wouldn't discover as an ordinary tourist.
Oh yeah, that's amazing. Where did you go in Greece?
We spent the first week on the mainland. His mother came with us, and she grew up in Sparta, so we took her back to her village there near Sparta, and then we discovered a couple of fantastic new spas right there near Sparta. And that's some of the most beautiful. It's kind of like Tuscany there. Like it's where they grow all the olives and the oranges, and it's just beautiful, like rolling hills, and you've got the ocean breeze, though you're not too far from the ocean, even when you're in the center of the mainland. you're surrounded by ocean. And so it's just a beautiful, really beautiful climate.
That sounds so healing. That's amazing. What
Fabulous.
yeah, I love it. Give me some of that Greek spa energy.
Oh,
I'm sure the spas
we
are amazing.
this brand new spa that was just the architecture of it, and it was just absolutely stunning. It was called Euphoria, right near, kind of between Kalamata and Sparta there. I'm going to be writing a story about it. I need to get on that and get that done. But if you're listening and you are interested in learning about that spa, I'll be posting soon about it on the Savvy list.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, how does a Greek spa differentiate from like Japanese, Korean, or American? What makes it special?
Well, they were telling us when we went to Euphoria that they very much into, they had very much blended the ancient medicine from kind of the Chinese
Okay.
philosophy, Western medicine, and then the old, in Greece is a place where people, you probably heard the stories of people that have been like diagnosed with cancer or something, and they go home to Greece to die, and they start breathing and eating,
Healthy.
original food, food the
Mhm.
way that hasn't been altered, and they
Right.
rebounding and surviving and living long, healthy lives. And so
I haven't heard that before. I
yeah,
haven't heard that about Greece, like people going to die.
yeah.
And that's incredible. I love that.
Yeah, my mother-in-law still like picks like wild dandelions off the hills there and boils them into what they call horta. And I just love the stuff. I just have always liked the green stuff. And so some people don't like it, but I love it. It's kind of bitter and they put lemon on it, and it's just, and it's so healthy.
Oh yeah. No, dandelions are so good. I mean, I eat them and you can, make tea out of the roots and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, I hadn't heard that about cancer. I was diagnosed with cancer myself. I could have just gone to Greece and
Well,
had olives. Oh my God. I would have loved that.
yeah,
But I didn't hear any of those stories.
yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know. I had heard that a long time ago about the guy, and they did a study, like, he lived into his 90s and he thought he was going home to die, just to be in where, he had grown up. So you never know.
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not the thing that you could always do, but
Yeah.
so.
Well, I have heard about the Mediterranean diet being the best diet. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
everything's
Greek.
just, they eat. I try to eat a low carb diet. I lost weight on the low carb, and in Greece it's like impossible because everything they do involves bread and pastry, so
Yeah. It's hard to
impossible.
avoid.
But I do think it's a different way that they make the grain, and
Hmm.
the fact that they don't put chemicals in their food, and some of the things that they do here, when they eat sugar, they eat sugar. They don't eat like corn syrup and stuff that we have in our food here, so
That makes sense. All
it's not
natural.
it's not like they are just so good in their food choices. It's just that their food choices are better choices to begin with. So
I see. That makes sense. Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful. You're bringing back memories.
Oh,
I've been to Greece too.
so beautiful there.
So it's a beautiful place.
We did some wine tasting in Greece too, and I was very impressed. It's been maybe 10 years since we've been to Greece, and I was very impressed with how far the Greek wine industry has come. And I love the fact that they have some different grapes there that we don't have, and that we don't grow in the United States, or that they don't grow in Italy or France either. So they have some unique grapes. So I was very impressed with the quality of the wine there.
That's great. With the wine, do they export it a lot? I haven't heard of a lot of Greek wines. Maybe they keep it for themselves.
More small production, I think.
Small
I
production,
think there's
yeah.
a lot of exporting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Well, what is Zen success to you?
well, I think I mentioned how I met my husband in Mexico, and to me that's relationships are an example of, so many people fail at relationships because they feel like they they get out of school and they start their career and they feel like, oh, well, I got to choose, it's time. And I got to choose from among, the people in my immediate sphere around me right now they're available. So they make a safe choice, or they make the choice that their mom and dad, somebody that
they're repeating patterns, right?
Yeah. And so, I just feel like if you, in our relationship, it wasn't like it just happened because it was convenient. And we actually had to work at it. We had to really want to try to have a relationship to sustain a long distance relationship for 2 years between Dallas and Toronto, until we finally decided it was time. We were sure and we were ready to be together. But we had to work at that, to make that commitment to always try to see each other and keep that relationship going. So I think relationships should be like that. And if you don't immediately feel such an extreme attraction to each other that you can't stay away from each other, it's not going to get better. It's not going to increase it, so it should be there in the first place. And then the task is to work at sustaining that level. So, and then the same holds true with careers. I think, first of all, a lot of people, people that I've interviewed a lot of people in my career as a journalist, and people that are really successful. There's people that have money that aren't really successful, but people that are really successful tend to have success in all areas of their life, and that's with intention. But there are people that don't let other people decide for them what their path is. There are people that like really follow their natural calling and really want to do what's comfortable for them. So, like, I remember as a child, like I had a thing for writing, and I wrote little plays, and I would assemble like all of the kids in the neighborhood, and I'd assign them parts, and I'd tell them what to say.
Oh, that's amazing.
And they put a little play on, and we'd get the parents together in the garage and somebody's garage and put a little play on, for them. And everybody just thought that was really cute. But, I really wish that I had someone at that young age encouraging me, like, you have writing talent, you could write movies, you could direct, you're a director, but that was just not in the wheelhouse. It was,
people didn't think about that encouraging. No. Yeah.
In my parents' generation, my parents were from the golden generation where people worked hard, maybe their parents didn't have the opportunity to go to college. And so that their dream was to send their kids to college because they knew that meant some nicely packaged little corporate job waiting for them when they got out. And then, but their kids saw those corporate jobs were, they were being asked to leave, they were not treated right. They were, they worked so many years and had, very little success to show for it other than paying the bills, maybe, and so, and then the millennial generation takes it even further. My kids have never been around parents that worked in a corporate job, but they saw us work hard to have a lot taken away from us at one point. And so they were like, well, why would you put, all of, do all of that, only to let somebody else control your success? Because you do, whether it's you're running your own agency and you get in with one client that holds all the keys, and then they decide, oh, well, we've had enough of you. The owner's son is going to come over and take over the business, and he's going to do all this marketing that we don't need you guys anymore. Things like that. That's happened to us a couple of times. So I think that the millennial generation is almost going back to, what, we're people. We're people. We have personalities. We have innate talent, and our work doesn't define who we are. And if we can, we should use our innate talent, whatever our calling is, to create a career out of. But also we maintain control of that career, not letting anyone else tell us what we can and can't do as far as work is concerned either. So many people fall under pleasing somebody else or letting somebody else tell them when to be there and when they can go home, and when they're tired of them working there and they want them to leave, so I think we have to resist being that way.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of us in society were trained that way because of school. I mean,
That's right.
school trains you to, do what you're told and follow this schedule. Yeah. So getting a job seems like the right thing to do. And yeah, and I love what you're saying about the different generations and what their needs are, because I think there's a shift with employers now where they're having to try to recruit people and be attractive to them. And not every job is a sure thing. I always thought computer programming was, oh yeah, that is the future, and then now we have AI and that taking some of the jobs of writing and programming. And it's really interesting. And I think even some entrepreneurs are hiring, like there's this firm that hires people from the Philippines because they say that they're more loyal and all these things. And so that's an interesting twist as well.
Well, it's true. Like, I've been building some, redoing like my contact list and things like that. And, services like Fiverr and Upwork and things like that. Like I've learned recently, my time, I shouldn't be the one sitting behind cross-referencing the mailing list and cleaning up the list. So I can hire somebody overseas through those sites and they'll have it back to me like the next day, but I would have taken an entire day to do it, and I'm paying them $50 or $60 to do it,
Yeah. It's amazing.
It's silly not to do that now. And it's good for them because our money is worth more in their country. So they're happy to have the work. You don't want to ask people to do work for you and try to rip them off, but we're not ripping them off. If that's good money, that's more than they would make in a day in their country, So it's been
that's great.
a good experience working with some of these. And I understand, I have not really bitten the bullet, but I understand that you can hire these people to do all kinds of things like design and website design and, magazine layouts and things like that. And you're just working with them remotely. So, and I don't think that they're taking away American jobs, because a lot of things that they do, especially that admin stuff, it's people that people here don't want to do,
Yeah.
So,
right. They want to be more creative and be valued for their ideas, right?
That's right.
What does it mean to lead a savvy life?
So a savvy life is a balanced life where you aren't defined by your work. You have you put equal attention to working on, building your relationships and your friendships and your, your family relationships. That's just as important as all the time you spend with your work, because without that balance, it doesn't matter how successful you are in a business. If you don't have that balance, is it worth it? And then, also living a savvy life is not making the safe choices on what I call the on track choices, that maybe the choices that please other people. A lot of us grew up, with very, parents that really wanted something. They wanted to try to mold us into something, but we didn't fit that mold, And so, you can't let anyone else. So I would say that to people, themselves, but also like I have kids too. And I have to remember like what I might feel like I should mold them into isn't what they want to be molded into, like everybody has a right to choose their own path. And you can't assume that everything that's right for somebody else, even if they're your kid, So
yeah. How old are your kids?
They're grown now. They're late 20s. So.
Oh, and what are they up to?
So they, one is a mortgage lender, and we actually introduced him to a builder that we met, and we're very impressed with what they were doing, because they were breaking the mold and the way they were doing business. And he started as a college intern with them, and he's now their number one closer far and away. And he speaks like fluent Spanish, which he uses in that. He's extremely valuable in that business because of his language skill. And he just kind of had a knack for Spanish, and we encouraged it. And And I'm really glad that he has that talent because it's really helped him. And then our younger son is working in designing houses, and he's working with my husband, and they're buying lots and developing them. And we live in a great area here in Dallas where there's just a ton of real estate activity. So trying to really make hay while the sun shines there. So.
Oh, that's so amazing. I mean, I can feel like your whole parenting style is about letting go and let your kids be individuals, and whatever they want to be.
And what's really interesting is our younger son, who's involved in the home designs. He is very creative, and he thinks differently than our generation. But guess what? It's his generation that's buying the houses. They're the ones that all the builders are trying to figure out, like, why don't they like what I do? It's because they have a totally different idea of how they want to live. And so they're looking for different things. So we really feel like he has an extreme eye for detail, and he has an extreme love of how things go together, like quality. Mm-hmm. And so we really feel like he brings a lot to the table that other builders can learn from. So we still have a home building industry magazine that we publish for builders in Texas. And so part of what we do on the Savvy List is share our own journey of, here's what the younger people in the market are saying they want. This is what we're doing differently in the neighborhood, because we think that answers better to what they're going to want long-term. So we try to share our own experience of whatever we're doing, creative wise. We share that on the Savvy List with our other audiences.
Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. I'm curious, what is it that the next generation wants for their living situation? Is it more collaborative? Like how are the builders designing it for them?
The older millennials are the ones approaching like their mid to late 30s, and becoming more traditional than they once were. They're having children, although later, and they come into the housing market with a lot more money. Maybe because their parents, maybe because it's Dallas. I don't know. Everybody seems to have money around here except for us. But their parents have been successful. And so we live in a neighborhood where 30-year-olds are buying their first house for $2 million. That blows my mind, but they've got it, and they've waited to start their families and kind of establish their careers. And now they're buying. And I don't think they want privacy. They want flex space where they can, most of them are going to work from home a few days a week.
Yeah.
They want quality too. And they want, healthy air and things like that, clean.
Oh, that makes sense.
They want it to be a healthy place to live. And that involves everything from natural light to indoor air quality and outdoor living space and all of that. They're very in tune with. And before they ever shop for a house, they have done extensive research online. So sometimes some of the builders kind of cringe at that, because all these things that you see online in these reality shows that show people like remodeling their houses and stuff, it gives people a very unrealistic expectation of cost and time and things like that. So that can be a problem, but most, but it's good to have a good idea of what you want, be decisive. I think most of the millennials are pretty decisive about what they want,
Yeah. No, that's interesting. Of course, that's just one market in Dallas, but it's still interesting to think about that.
And I think and it's true, like of pretty much, I read all the national real estate news and kind of decipher it down into what's important to Texas home builders. But I see that across the board too in other markets besides Dallas as well.
That's great. That's great.
In an important market, and as far as what they want, their counterparts are across the country are a lot like them. So.
Oh, okay. Good to know. Great.
A lot of people too that are like, we travel a lot. We're building a second home in Tulum, Mexico, which is now that's a great Zen place. That's a wonderful Zen place. You need to know.
A lot of retreats there, I've heard.
Fabulous. Yeah. But we see a lot of kids in that age range that, they're renting their house back home, and they're digital nomads for a time, and so we see a lot of that going on. And I think people want that kind of flexibility, which is one of the reasons why millennials, a lot of millennials rent for a while before they have their families and stuff, because they want to be able to, hey, I'm tired of being in Dallas this winter. I'm going to go live in Mexico for a few months, so I'll just rent my place here. So that also makes it different, like the way they nest in their homes. They don't want to personalize them so much that they can't rent them to somebody else when they want to, take off and go somewhere else.
That's interesting. So it's a little more neutral.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if everyone's doing that because of Airbnb, just people thinking that way to keep their homes more neutral. And, they have home swap, they have all sorts of, organizations where you can travel and rent out your house.
I do think that that's something that the millennial generation will leave that lasting mark, and just having that idea that you don't have to live in the same house 12 months a year. You can move around and without being just a home, not having a home base, but you can still have a lot of flexibility, and why not? But that's something certainly that, a couple of generations ago, no one, that concept would have been like completely foreign. So.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And what about, so that sounds nice, your husband and what made you decide on Tulum, Mexico?
It's just like, it was one of those places. We've always loved Mexico because we met in Mexico. So we've always traveled a lot.
Yeah.
And we've been to Tulum years before it was developed. And just the fact that it's newly developing and that they're taking great care to preserve you. If you go to Cancun, you might as well be in Miami. They've got a great beach, but it's all condo, high rises and things like that. So I don't know, when I go to a place, I like to feel like I'm somewhere else besides the homeland. So we love that you can't build above the tree lines, that they protect the beach. They protect stuff there. So it's very much a jungle. And also the fact that they've got the Mayan train project and the Tulum airport, but the fact that it's been a little bit more difficult to get to means that most of the tourists there are from Mexico or South America or Europe. And so that kind of gives it a cool vibe as well. So it's amazing. Like it's because of its beauty and because of its real Zen atmosphere and the architecture and stuff there, it's attracted, like you said, a lot of yoga retreat people, a lot of things like that. And then you walk down that beautiful Tulum beach, always one of the top rated beaches in the world, on any day. And the hotel pool parties that are happening, we're a little bit too old for some of those things, but the young people it's like Las Vegas there.
Oh, really?
It's crazy. Like the level of like the money that people are spending and the cost of everything is like those Las Vegas pool parties that people drop. It's like that there. So we just walk around and look at it and think, oh, it's interesting. But they're really in Tulum, there's something for everyone. If you like quiet and peaceful yoga retreats, there's that. And then on the other end of the beach are all the crazy young people with their beach parties and daytime pool parties where they have bottle service and stuff, So anyway.
Yeah, sounds amazing. It kind of reminds me of Costa Rica a little bit when you said the jungle. They haven't been there. Yeah.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
So how do your husband and you play and work together?
Well, we've been involved all along with the promotion of the business. We've always been in business together. So Steve's really the promoter, and I'm the one that does the detail work. I'm really the writer, for example, one of the things that we're working on right now, he has a real estate license, and we've actually sold units in Tulum from our developer pays real estate commission to American realtors.
Oh.
So we've actually sold just in promoting it and talking about how much we love it, like
Yeah.
not really marketing it, just talking about it. We've referred a few friends that have bought there. And so we have an idea of, since I published 2 historical fiction books, and I'm hooked to that genre. I really love historical fiction. And there's so much cool history in Tulum, and there's such a cool vibe there that we're actually working on a script that we want to be like a television series for Netflix.
Uh-huh.
But we have all kinds of ideas on, maybe we take that to our developer has the coolest properties down there in Playa and Tulum. And maybe we take that to him and we film, we film some of the stuff there. And then of course you've got the beautiful native cenotes where you can film the mystical stuff that will happen in this screenplay, so we're tying in the old ancient history of the Mayans with the modern day things that are going on with Tulum. But we think that's a great way to market Tulum too. And even the way they dress there, and like things that the actresses and actors could wear in the series could, bring people there, and we could promote the local artisans that make the jewelry and the clothes and stuff down there as well. So that's kind of our long range goal.
Oh, that's amazing. I love that. Well, I'd love to hear about your first book.
Okay. So, a few years back, a good friend of mine, we became friends. We kind of bonded while our children were both still in high school. And we had always heard of each other because she ran an ad agency there. And I was always involved in media. And so we knew of each other, and we had admiration for each other before we met. I'd always heard her name. And then we met and we just clicked, because both of us were very creative. And, we're at the senior prom planning committee, and people, me and her had all these crazy, real creative ideas. And I think the other people were just like, I think you guys have this. Why don't you just be in charge of the prom? So that's how we started our friendship. And then we stayed in touch, and we just really enjoyed working with each other on that. And then, so she had in the meantime been a caregiver to her father. And then her grandfather before that, some years before I knew her, she had cared for her grandfather, and both of them she cared for in their dying days. And both of them talked about this amazing woman named Anna in a town of Marshalltown, Iowa, where both of them grew up. And this woman was powerful, strong. She was the first Black woman that most people in that town had ever spent time with. And they didn't really know how to take her as a person. And she just got in there and refused to be, treated any differently, and earned the respect of the community and became part of that community. She was a Southern lady from Iowa. I mean, she was a Southern lady from Atlanta. And she brought all of that culture of Southern cooking and planning every meal and cutting fresh flowers and putting on the table to a town of very modest, basic, hardworking, kind of hardcore type of people that live there. But she was brought to the town on an assignment to take care of the doctor's child. And the doctor's child was born with extreme physical disabilities. And so again, she at that time, this was in the 1930s that she moved to this town. And at that time, a lot of those children that had these problems like that were just shut away, just tragically, they were just sent away. And so people see children that had challenges like that either in that time. And so she, again, taught the people in that town, this boy might not be able to talk to you, but he has feelings, he has dignity, he's a person that deserves respect. You can't talk about him like he's not there. And so she just taught people the most valuable life lessons, and was the type of person that could size people up in a couple of minutes and tell them no, you're wrong about this, or whatever it was. But she wasn't confrontational about it. People loved her and they respected what she had to say. So anyway, so she ended up having a lifelong influence over these two men that, and so my friend Catherine Team started writing down all of these stories that they told us about this remarkable lady, Anna. And then she out of this collection of stories that were, they weren't really connected. And so I thought the stories were fantastic. It was almost reminded me of the story of Forrest Gump, just the things that the encounters and things that they would do. But so I gave it a storyline, and I said, well, what if we did this and that? And then we tied this story to that story. And so we're creating a dated storyline. And then we also wanted it to have historical accuracy. So everything they ate and drank had to be something that was available in Iowa at that time, so to give it really authenticity. And so she said, wow, this is so necessary in order for this to be a book. And and you've done so much. And she loved all of my ideas. It was originally her book. So I was, I'm supposed to be the editor. So I wanted to say softly, like, what about this and what about that? And she's like, no, I like all your suggestions. So I'm just going to call you my co-author from now on. So
that's amazing.
From Atlanta. And then we collaborated again, and we wrote Anna of Iowa. And that picks up in World War II. And
so that's a sequel. That's the second book. Okay.
And we were able to there were lots of really interesting things happening in the homeland in World War II that they don't necessarily write about in the history books. So we were able to tie our fictional characters and our real characters into real life circumstances. And then we embellish some of those circumstances, of course, too, which is the fun part of historical fiction. But the fact of the matter with historical fiction is fiction doesn't get any stranger than the truth. The true stories are you're like, I can't believe that really happened. And so we were able to dig some of those up and incorporate them into the book, which I just love that. I love that genre. So it's kind of what we're doing now in the Tulum story, which we haven't really titled yet. But
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So that will be the third book.
Third book, yeah.
Yeah.
And the first two books I wrote as a co-author with Catherine Team, my friend. Mm-hmm. And then Steve and I, my husband Steve, we were collaborating on the Tulum story. So he's doing a lot of research on that for me and stuff. So.
Oh, that's great. Well, tell me about your path to success. So what brought you from PR to publishing a magazine and being a writer?
Well, when I got to I tried, I was influenced by my parents. And even though I did all of the creative stuff growing up, my father decided that I should be a CPA. That does not.
And what was he doing as a job?
Thought I should be a CPA, but so I started in the business school, but then I took
But what was he doing? Like, why did he think of CPA?
He was pretty entrepreneurial himself. He worked out of a home office from the 1960s, which nobody worked in a home office then. He had a typewriter, and he finally bought a fax machine back in the day. And,
wow.
But, he ran his business out of our house in West Texas.
Oh, wow. See, it was in your blood. He was trying to push you into safety.
He was trying to push me into a more corporate world, even though he didn't fit it himself. But
yeah. Okay.
But when I took my first journalism course, I knew that was where I belonged. And so I sailed through my my journalism degree. I got my journalism degree from SMU, Southern Methodist University in Dallas. And I sailed through it. I completed all of my courses my junior year that were required for my major. And I had 24 hours of free electives left in the art school because SMU they still put their journalism school in the arts department, which almost every other school in the country puts journalism in the business school. So I tried to do art school, and then, but I thought at that time I wanted to be a copywriter and work for ad agencies. And then I got into working in agencies, and then I worked in a PR agency. Then I met the Canadian. We moved to Canada. We landed a big job with the Canadian wine industry. And then the magazine publishing started out as we considered the opportunity as a client thing, like as one sideline thing. You try to be diversified when you have an agency, and then that grew into a full-time. We helped this company create magazines all across the US and Canada. And so until they sold, and that was the story of, like, oh, the new corporate guys are going to come in here, and they thought they knew everything. The main thing was we made all of our money off residual income from all the different magazines that we had built over years. And they were jealous of that because we made more money than their executives made. So they just tore it down. They tore it all apart, and they ended up just losing the company that they built. But we all lost in the process. So we had to start all over. But if we hadn't had to start all over, I wouldn't have had the book publishing opportunity and some of the other opportunities that have come my way and taught me what I know today. And that's just like, don't let don't get too hooked up. Even in that case, we were working independently, but we were so hooked up with this one company that they controlled our destiny. So try not to do that again.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I love how you just said it was for the best, because it led you to this passion of writing that you maybe wouldn't have discovered. That's amazing. Well, what publications do you come out with? I know you said the building one, right?
Well, the building one is an industry publication for builders. So it wouldn't be widely known unless you were in that industry, which makes it a good niche types of magazines are the ones that have survived like that. But now all the content that we create, including, we post up our podcast and everything on the Savvy list. So, and there you're going to find, just people pursuing passions, people with interesting careers, people, there's writers, people, we're auto journalists as well. So we talk a lot about that industry on the Savvy list. And then the front part of it's kind of like the best of the best, the way people live the best of the best, with the best of the best in luxury products and things like that. So I did publish 2 magazines for that industry, like really high-end neighborhoods in Dallas. And so I built that audience over about 10 years, but I willingly left that position last year because it was getting to be one of those too corporate things. And I could see the writing on the wall on that. So I decided to bite the bullet and leave that because I didn't want to get caught up in that again. And I really
was that not your own business? That was working for someone else?
We're like franchisees. It started out as and then they made us into franchisees, but they still can put a lot of control over you, even though we worked independently in a home office to do it, but still you have all these expectations that we're just getting more and more and more. So it was feeling a little bit suffocating to us. So, and again, we were wiser, I think, this time, and not waiting to let somebody else, take it away from you or make it so unpleasant that you don't want to stay there. So leave on a high note and try to retain your audience and do something else, So that's what we've done with the Savvy list. So.
Oh, that's awesome. And so the Savvy list, is that like a luxury brand list?
It's a little bit of, it's kind of the umbrella for everything that we do. And it's really just about living life to your fullest, pursuing passion, whether you're involved in home building, whether you work in automotive design, or you are a writer, a filmmaker, or if you're a person, here in Dallas, there's a lot of people that consider their career like giving their time 100% to philanthropy, like that's a big part of what we promote on that site too. So it's whatever drives you. It's, there's a lot of resources and ideas and success stories that we tell on there. So.
Oh, that's inspiring.
And we also talk about like our characters in the books and the new film, the Tulum book, and kind of what they represent and how we develop this character and what they're, what it means. So.
Oh yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, so would you consider yourself an influencer, and how can our audience be influencers as well?
I think, I think influencer is kind of it's almost become a negative.
Like a social media.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't consider myself a huge social media junkie. Like I don't have a huge following, but I have a loyal following. And that's what I really want to build upon is
Yeah.
a following from the
Because
right
that's
people.
true influence. It's not about the numbers.
True
It's
influence.
really about the trust.
Yeah. Like one time, one time I interviewed someone that was connected with Mark Cuban here. He's lives in Dallas, and his publicist was there. And she said, you really need to do something with your contacts that you have. Because I can ask for anything in the high end, in the luxury market, and you know exactly who to tell me to talk to. And that's something that not everybody has. So she gave us, she wasn't looking for business. She has enough to do working for Mark Cuban and all of his associated companies. But she said, I just wanted to tell you that. And she took us to coffee and gave us some ideas and stuff. And so it was kind of with that in mind that we first started, the Savvy List. So.
Oh, that's exciting. Just confirmation that it's valuable. Yeah. That's amazing. So now you've been doing this podcast. When did you launch your podcast? It's called People Pursuing Passions, right?
Yeah, so we did a few test runs on it like last year. And then we decided really what we wanted to focus on and what we wanted to call it and everything. And then, we started taping at the beginning of the summer, and we taped a couple of episodes a week, every week in the summer until we had like a whole year's worth now. So now we're just rolling them out. So all the work we did this summer is just rolling out. And I have a production studio that we work with, and I'm kind of just letting them be the pros on. They've done a lot of study about podcasting and how to package it and promote it and things like that. So I just find the interesting people to interview, and they tell me I do a good job with hosting them, but they also help me to make make me look good and edit me so that everything sounds good. But I do have a lot of interesting people to bring to the table to talk. So they're rolling them out and packaging them and rolling them out on a schedule, like one a month. So even though we've got a whole year, it's kind of like a TV series, even though you've got a whole year in the can, we're rolling out. We've only got 2 episodes up, and the next one, they go out the first week of every month. So we've only got the first 2 episodes are up right now on Apple. And
congratulations on launching that. Sorry to interrupt you. What were you saying?
I'm just saying, so they're just rolling them out. And we interviewed all different types of people, from across, certainly people that we know from the home building industry about some of the stuff we've talked about, what people are looking for, how they got into that. And then, I interviewed a couple of people I find the automotive industry very interesting because, we have one of the girls that we talked to is getting a master's degree in motorsports marketing in Italy. And she started race car driving when she was 14 because her dad has a passion for racing cars, and he's a home builder that we've known for 25 years. So anyway, it's funny how some of those things all work together. That
is funny. That's interesting.
That'll be a really interesting one when she comes up, when her turn comes up to roll out her podcast. And I just think she's a perfect example of, somebody that, I didn't even know they had a school for motorsports marketing. And she got an undergraduate degree in South Carolina, I think. And I didn't know they had that there, And so I just think she's a great example of somebody that had a passion, and she's making her life, building her life around this passion. And she's getting to go to, she's 22 years old, I think, and she's getting to live in Italy and, and pursue her passions. I just think that she's going to have an amazing career, because in that world, like, women make up only 10% of the workforce in motorsports. So I think that's going to open a lot of doors for her,
That's interesting. Yeah. And such a niche. I mean, to be marketing for motorsports. It's amazing. Well, anything else to add? Any inspiration for our audience?
I just think, sometimes when you ask people if they want to live their life on track or off the rails, a lot of people would say, oh, I want to be on track. I don't want to be crazy, but on track, it is the safe choice, always making the safe choices and pleasing other people. Whereas off the rails is taking risk. And I just think even though when you go off the rails, you're taking risk and you're probably going to have some failures in that, but it's better to do what you want in life and to get to use your, I want to find a way to use my writing talent to go to my next space, So, and it's never too late to start that. So, I pity people that get in a car and drive to work every day and they're on somebody else's schedule and they have to ask for time off. And then they sit in an hour of traffic to get home. There's so many people that live their lives that way. And I just feel like it's just too bad they couldn't have made different choices, So I want to encourage people to make different choices.
Yes. Wonderful. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting to know you and learning about your entrepreneurial ventures, a Savvy List, your incredible historical fiction books and publications. I'll put your website and how to buy your books in the show notes. So thanks for being on my show today, Beverly.
Thank you so much for having me. I love what you're doing too. It's awesome.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey. And join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.